the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. It's time to talk about Tay Martin, or Big Play Tay, how he's been known throughout his time in college, had a couple of stops, and ultimately ended up at Oklahoma State. And Tay Martin is one of the most interesting players that I'm going to talk about in the receiver position, because he's a guy that a lot of people thought were going to make the team last year. He was signed as an undrafted free agent in 2022, and he seemed to be a nice fit for the 49ers and potentially a 6 wide receiver. However, the 49ers elected to go with 5. Now, with all of that, here we are in 2023, and there's even more competition with Ronnie Bell joining and others that they signed in free agency. There's plenty of talent to go around. Being a 6'3" wide receiver normally gave you an advantage with the 49ers because they just didn't have that much height. But now they've continued to add players that have that sort of height, like Chris Conley. They have players and they have options at the wide receiver position. We know who the top dogs are. We know about Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, who is that 6'2.5", 6'3" body structure, Ray-Ray McCloud, and Danny Gray, the third-round pick from 2022. There's a tremendous amount of talent. Now they go out in the 7th round, they get Ronnie Bell from Michigan. He's going to be competing with a guy like Tay Martin. And Big Play Tay got that moniker because he used to go up over the ball, up over defenders and make plays. He's a guy that can definitely play the ball at its highest point and get into the end zone. So Tay Martin's an interesting guy, 6'3", about 190 pounds. I'm sure he's a little bit bigger than that. And he's a guy that's got pretty good hands. Now, you'll notice right away, even though he's a 4.58 guy, he definitely doesn't have the straight line speed to be able to be a consistent vertical threat in the NFL. Yes, you can win over the top in college, and his long arms and tall height and frame make him able to go up over the top and have a vertical game that way. He's also a red zone threat because of his physical tools. But he is a little bit struggling when it comes to getting in and out of his breaks, being able to accelerate. He also can drop footballs at times. So Tay Martin's a guy that is definitely a fringe to make this 53-man roster. When you're talking about the players that are already there, how does Tay Martin make this team? Well, first off, he's going to have to block, and he's going to have to block at a high level. That is a prerequisite to make this 49ers team, especially at the wide receiver position. One of the reasons that Brandon Ayuk is so valuable to this team is the way he blocks. Same with Jawan Jennings. For Tay Martin, it might be a little bit of a problem to make this team because of Jawan Jennings. Jawan Jennings is on this team and plays that slot. A power slot role for Tay Martin would make the most sense. We just talked about the fact he doesn't really have the speed to be a vertical threat. He's a little bit slower in and out of his breaks because of his long limbs and the way that it takes a little bit longer for him to get to the top point and break out the top of his stem. He has to create separation using his length, and he has to create separation because of Kyle Shanahan's play calling. So Tay Martin is a little bit behind the 8 ball because of the players that are ahead of him. But he does have a lot of talent. This is a good wide receiver. He's a guy that is definitely a fringe 53 guy in the NFL. He could probably even make a couple of other rosters. However, he did sit on the 49ers practice squad all of 2022. So he is a redshirt rundown guy. And that's why we're talking about him in this episode. So Tay Martin is a guy that's going to be competing to make this roster. Just like last year, if the 49ers elect to go with 5, he's probably not going to make it. I would say Danny Gray would be the 5th wide receiver for the 49ers, with Ronnie Bell right there on the edge with Tay Martin. Tay Martin's going to have to compete with the likes of Chris Conley that we just brought up. And Conley's gotten more speed and yet the same height. This is going to be something interesting to watch when we come to training camp. Will that speed of Conley translate to more impact plays during training camp? The 49ers are only going to keep players as their 6th wide receiver if they can make an impact on the roster during a game. That impact doesn't have to be just in the passing game. It can be running as well. And the run game is very important. Last year, Willie Snead was a call-up from the practice squad and was able to help the 49ers pretty consistently. Ray McLeod had a touchdown run on a counter because of the block by Willie Snead. Now, of course, everyone else made great blocks too, but those are the types of things that have to get you on the field. So how does Tay Martin make this team? Number one, he must go out there and compete on every play and catch every ball that hits his hands. You can't let the ball hit the ground. There can be no lapses in concentration. You have to make sure you get out there and you make those plays. Number two, you have to make sure that you are a definite help in the red zone. Go up and win. Use that physical gifts that you've had, the leaping ability, the fact you can jump up and use your elite length and are able to get the ball at the highest point. Those are things you're going to have to take advantage of. You're going to have to show that you can block in the run game, that you're more than just a wide receiver. You're going to have to show that strength to be able to block and help in the running game. If you don't block, you don't get the rock for the San Francisco 49ers. That's something important for Tay Martin to do. He also just has to go out and compete on special teams. We've seen this at other positions as well. Last year, Jordan Mason was chosen over Ty Davis Price because of his special teams ability. That gave him the upper hand. We've seen it at linebackers too, where players like Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles beat out a Curtis Robinson because of his special teams ability. These things are normal, and the wide receiver position is no different. When you've got a guy like Ronnie Bell that has return capabilities, or Danny Gray who has elite speed, they have things that help on special teams. Danny Gray as a gunner, Ronnie Bell as a potential backup returner for Ray McLeod. So Tay Martin has to prove that he is valuable on special teams. It's going to be difficult. Like I said, there's also veteran players right there looking for an opportunity to make this team. Chris Connolly, Daz Newsome. There are plenty of guys in the 49ers organization that are looking to come up. So Tay Martin is a fun player to watch. Watching his film from his 2 stops in college, I seen a guy that competed on every single play. I seen a guy that worked hard, a guy that could win at the point of attack, a guy that was a willing blocker but not a very good blocker, something he's going to have to get better at. And then when I went to training camp last year, was a guy that could make plays. He was a fun player to watch. He definitely was on people's radar. I don't think he was as close to making the team last year as a lot of people do, but I do think that he was one of the top 8 wide receivers for the 49ers in camp last year. It was enough to get him on the practice squad. Do I believe he has a chance to make the 53-man roster? I think he's in the conversation. I think if the 49ers elect to keep 6 wide receivers, it will come down to Conley, it will come down to Tay Martin, and it will come down to Ronnie Bell. The question is, can he beat out Ronnie Bell, a 7th-round pick who has really great hands that has impressed so far during OTAs? If he can, then he's got a really good chance to make this team. But I think Brian Snyder, the special teams coach, probably going to make the final decision on this. If it has to come down to Bell versus Tay Martin, and Bell is more valuable on special teams, they will go with Bell. So Tay Martin is going to have to work his butt off every single day at practice to show his worth. And when he has the opportunity, he has to make a play every single chance. 49ers wide receiver position is not a position that you can just sneak on as an undrafted free agent. You have to be very talented, you have to be very deliberate, and you have to make sure you go take advantage of every single rep you get. Never leave any stone unturned when you have your opportunity. Be able to create separation with his long arms, be able to get off these defenders and make plays, and do not get smothered and not be able to get vertical when you're asked to. I think it's a tall order for Tay Martin to make this team, but I think he's on the brink and on the fringe to make it. So we'll see if Tay Martin does. I like his length. I like his size. I like his ability to continue to work every single day. And I think that always gives him a chance. He goes out there and competes on special teams. We could be talking about Tay Martin being on the 49ers 53-man roster. Will he be able to overcome Ronnie Bell? I'm not so sure. Ronnie Bell is a very fun guy to watch. I think he has a lot of ability. And I think that when we're talking about these wide receiver positions, I think it's going to be a fun conversation all throughout training camp because there are capable bodies for a potential 6th roster spot. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think about Tay Martin and Big Play Tay in the comment section down below. Like the video. Really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. On the push for 4K, and we're getting ever so close to the spot, being about 80 away, the Jerry Rice away from 4K. Thank you so much for watching. There's going to be more videos coming your way, including some videos about OTAs, and then a breakdown of Drake Jackson. Really want to talk about him in the next several days. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you all in the next one, but until then, stay safe, and remember the right way is always the 49ers way.